Many people think that cooking polenta is a labor-intensive process that demands constant stirring and attention, and if exact rules are not followed, the polenta can easily become a lumpy mess. In reality, polenta is actually very easy to make and quite difficult to ruin. Once you have determined the ratio of cornmeal to liquid you are going to use, the next step is to combine the two without forming any lumps. There are two common methods to do this. The easiest method is the cold method. Simply pour the cold liquid into a tall pot, add the cornmeal, and whisk. Once combined, turn the heat to medium-high and whisk frequently as the liquid comes to a boil. The other method is the hot method. First, bring the liquid to a boil. This method works particularly well when you want to infuse the liquid with aromatics before adding the cornmeal. In this case, to avoid lumps, it is important that the cornmeal is added in a slow, steady stream while constantly whisking. Note: when using the hot method, the finer the cornmeal, the greater the tendency it will have to clump. If it isn't added slowly, you can see how easily it clumps together. Even after whisking, it is still lumpy. Once the cornmeal has been incorporated into the liquid and the mixture is smooth, let the polenta cook over medium-high heat for about 10 minutes or so. During this time, the polenta should be whisked often to prevent potential lumps and scorching on the bottom of the pot. Once the mixture starts to thicken, adjust the heat to maintain a gentle simmer. Let the polenta slowly cook to develop the most corn flavor. As the polenta thickens, you may need to switch to a heat-proof spatula or wooden spoon. The mixture will likely splatter, so a long handle is helpful. You may even want to remove the pot from the heat as you stir. If it is splattering too much, cover the pot with a lid, set slightly ajar, and make sure the heat is at the lowest setting. Depending on the grind and desired consistency, continue to cook the polenta for at least 15 to 30 minutes. Traditionalists often slowly cook coarse polenta for up to an hour. During the cooking process, stir frequently, but don't get too carried away. Many recipes indicate to constantly stir the cornmeal during the entire cooking process. However, more frequent stirring is only necessary if making very large quantities. Larger batches need to be stirred frequently to evenly distribute and cook the cornmeal throughout. For smaller quantities, you just need to stir every so often. Either way, make sure to scrape the bottom, sides, and corners of the pot to prevent scorching. Taste the polenta from time to time to get a sense of the texture. Just remember, it will be very hot. The polenta should be cooked until the starches in the corn are able to fully hydrate. The grain should not be al dente, they should be cooked all the way through. Although coarser grinds will still maintain their nice texture. Rest assured that unlike pasta, polenta is very hard to overcook. While any grind can be used to make polenta, keep in mind that the finer the grind, the quicker it will cook and the smoother the polenta will be. Note: if the polenta becomes too thick during the cooking process, you can simply add more hot liquid, a bit at a time until you reach the desired consistency. Likewise, if it is a bit too thin, you can turn up the heat and continually stir to allow the moisture to cook out and thicken it. Keep in mind that once polenta has finished cooking, it will continue to thicken as it cools. Right now, this has a good consistency, but even after a few minutes in the bowl or on a plate, you can see how much thicker it becomes. Once the polenta is done to your liking, turn off the heat and taste for seasoning. If you are not ready to serve the polenta, it can be held over a bain-marie until the rest of the meal is ready.